He grew up 15 minutes from the rink, wore the sea of legends, put up the points, put in the work, and watched 10 straight seasons come and go without a single playoff win. Dylan Larkin is the most Detroit thing the Detroit Red Wings have produced in a generation. And now, for the first time in his life, he wants out. The phone call came shortly after the season ended. The words were simple. The message was devastating. And when Steve Yzerman finally stepped to the microphone to address it, he did not promise anyone anything. Things are not looking good for Dylan Larkin. And here is exactly why. There is a specific kind of pain that only belongs to Michigan. Not the heartbreak of a close call, not the frustration of a bad stretch. The pain of watching a dynasty, one of the greatest in NHL history, dismantle itself slowly, and then rebuild again, and never quite get there. That has been Dylan Larkin's entire professional career. He was born in Waterford Township, 30 miles outside Detroit. Grew up a Red Wings fan. Dreamed the same dreams every Michigan kid dreamed. Hockeytown, the octopus on the ice, the Stanley Cup banners hanging from the rafters at the Joe. His father took him to games. He knew the lineage. He understood what the Red Wings were. When the Red Wings drafted him 15th overall in 2014, it was not just a hockey pick. It was a homecoming. Larkin arrived in the NHL at 19 years old and did something remarkable almost immediately. At the 2016 All-Star Skills Competition, he shattered the fastest skater record that had stood for 2 decades, 13.172 seconds around the rink. A teenager from Michigan, faster than anyone who had ever laced up skates at that event. The building went electric, and just like that, a franchise had found its next face. He was exactly what Detroit needed. A gifted two-way center, a natural leader, a Michigan kid who understood in his bones what it meant to wear that sweater. By January of 2021, he was wearing the C, the same letter Yzerman once wore as a player, the same letter that had carried the weight of 25 consecutive playoff appearances and 4 Stanley Cup championships during a dynasty the rest of the NHL could only watch in envy. But that dynasty was long gone. And what Larkin inherited was not a contender. It was a rebuild. The Red Wings had missed the playoffs for 3 consecutive seasons before he was even drafted. They missed it again in his first year, and his second, and his third. Yzerman arrived as general manager in 2019 with a mandate to fix everything from the foundation up. And Larkin became the centerpiece of that foundation. The face of a rebuild that had no defined end date, no guaranteed destination, and no timeline that anyone could point to and say with certainty, this is when it gets better. In March of 2023, Larkin signed an 8-year extension worth $69.9 million. 8 years. He believed in this team. He believed in what Yzerman was building. He committed, fully and publicly, to seeing it through. That contract was not just a paycheck. It was a statement of faith from a homegrown captain who did not have to stay but chose to. And then the rebuild kept not working. The playoffs kept not happening. And the faith began to crack at the edges. 10 seasons. That number hits different when you actually stop to feel it. The Detroit Red Wings have not made the Stanley Cup playoffs in 10 consecutive years. That is not just the longest drought in franchise history, from a franchise that had made 25 straight trips to the postseason before this collapse began. It is the longest active drought in the entire NHL, and through all 10 of those seasons, Larkin has been the one standing in front of the microphones, picking up the pieces, telling the fan base that the team was building towards something real. He kept scoring. 30 goals or more, 67 points or more, 5 straight seasons of elite, consistent production, while playing through injuries and playing through losing and playing through the growing quiet of a fan base that had seen too much disappointment to get excited anymore. He kept killing penalties. He kept taking the hardest face-offs. He kept showing up in the most critical moments. He was everything a franchise captain is supposed to be, and it kept not being enough. In 11 seasons, he has appeared in exactly 5 Stanley Cup playoff games. All 5 came in his rookie year. Since then, not a single postseason shift, 643 career points, 10th in franchise history, and not one playoff series win to show for any of it. Something shifted publicly after the 2025 trade deadline. The deadline came and went, and Detroit barely moved. When Larkin stepped to the podium, He said something that made the entire league stop and listen. He said the guys were kind of down about it. Not explosive, not dramatic. Just the quiet, exhausted honesty of a man who had waited long enough and was tired of pretending otherwise. If you are following the biggest stories in the NHL this offseason, make sure you are subscribed. We cover every major move the moment it breaks. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a video like this one. Yzerman addressed it. Said there was no rift, and the Red Wings entered 2025 to 2026 with genuine belief. They were tied for first place in the Eastern Conference as late as January 24th, a 12-point cushion for a playoff spot. The finish line was right there. Then Detroit fell apart, 13 losses in their last 19 games, 10th in the Eastern Conference, out of the playoffs again. And shortly after the final horn sounded, the phone rang in Steve Yzerman's office. On the other end was agent Pat Brisson. The message was short. Dylan Larkin would like to be traded. For 3 weeks, nobody said a word publicly. Not Larkin, not Brisson, not Yzerman. The request leaked through insider circles and then it spread everywhere. The short list of teams Larkin would accept a trade to became the fuel for every NHL debate in June. The Florida Panthers, the Minnesota Wild, the Vegas Golden Knights. 3 teams, that is it. A list so narrow, it limits Yzerman's negotiating leverage in ways that are genuinely uncomfortable to describe. The fan reaction was instant and divided. Half of Detroit understood. 10 years is a long time, and a competitor wants to compete. Nobody could truly fault him for that. The other half was furious. How does a Michigan kid, the franchise captain, a man who grew up dreaming about that sweater, hand his general manager 3 choices and call it a trade request? Then came the draft, Buffalo, New York, and Yzerman finally stood in front of the cameras and said something, briefly, carefully, with every ounce of discipline you would expect from the man who once wore the same captain's letter that Larkin now carries. He confirmed the request. He confirmed the short list. And then he said the words that sent a chill through the entire league. He cannot make any guarantees that the request could or would be met. His job is to do what is in the best interest of the Detroit Red Wings, and he will act accordingly. There are no clean answers here, no obvious resolution. Just a franchise trapped between honoring a captain who gave them everything and protecting an organization that still has to survive the next 5 years. Larkin has 5 years remaining on his contract. Yzerman does not have to move him. He could hold on, wait for the market to shift, and force Larkin to report to training camp under the most uncomfortable circumstances imaginable. Free agency opens July 1st, and Yzerman will be navigating one of the most complicated roster situations in the NHL while this situation hangs over every decision he makes. Dylan Larkin turns 30 in July. He has 643 points in 808 games, 10th in franchise history. He has appeared in exactly 5 Stanley Cup playoff games in 11 professional seasons, all of them coming in his rookie year. He won Olympic gold with Team USA in Milan this past February. He has done everything right. He has been everything Detroit asked him to be, and the city he grew up loving might be the one place he can no longer afford to stay. What happens next will define the next chapter of Detroit Red Wings hockey. And right now, there is only one man who holds the answer, and he just told the world he is not making any promises.